He's Wright Thompson, ESPN senior writer. His most recent story, A History of Flight, traces Michael Jordan's family relationship with rural North Carolina. Also coming out in November, Penguin Press will publish his next book, Pappyland, a story of family, fine bourbon, and the inheritance that matters the most. And Wright Thompson joins us now. Whoa, you're on the beach? What are you doing on the beach?
I don't know, but I need one of those Traeger grills, man. we have a toddler, and so I thought if we didn't get out of our house after 70 days, it was gonna devolve into some Lord of the Flies stuff. So we're in Fort Morgan Beach, Alabama.
You got your Atlanta Braves jersey. What year is that jersey from?
Oh, that would be 1982. That was a real team, Dan. We got Claudell Washington, Bob Horner, Chris Chambliss, Rick Mailer, Pascual Perez, Bruce Benedict behind the plate, Dale Murphy, the greatest living American. I don't
know. What is the drink you're going to have after this interview is over? Because you look like you're ready for a drink there. It's sunny. You got your hat on, your shades on. It's 10:30 in the morning.
At the very moment I hang this up, I'm getting an ice cold Budweiser. I just figured the last thing in the world I need is an email from ESPN PR. Really?
Oh, all right. Now, let me dive into this. You came out with this article on Michael Jordan, The History of Flight. The timing of this, based off The Last Dance, the documentary, was this planned all along or just coincidental?
No, it was planned. I mean, it started – my editor is a guy named Eric Neal, and he and I were watching the doc and sort of well, they're relentlessly beating this drum about how he is, to the point it became a meme. God, somebody tell Michael Jordan coronavirus was talking smack about him, And we were like, what is it that we're watching exactly? Where does it come from? And what does it mean? And so the story really flowed out of those questions and, trying to understand the cultural moment that we were all living in. And the further and further I went back into his history, the more the doc started connecting for me. And it's weird. I'm sure you've had these stories in your career, but the more I learned about his family history, just the more I wanted to be a custodian of that story and just try to deliver it honestly and tell people what his roots were like. And I felt a great responsibility to get that right.
But what was it that you unearthed that was one of those epiphanies that said, oh, that explains this?
Well, that for 5 or 6, if you count Michael, generations, they have lived in a pretty narrow wedge of North Carolina. I mean, people say he's from Wilmington, and that's true, but not really. I mean, his family is from the country outside of Wilmington. And when you see Michael Jordan as country, and when you see Michael Jordan as having these long rural roots in one tight area of land, you start to realize, one, the things that influenced him and shaped him to be the person that we know, and also all of the souls he carried with him every time he stepped on the court. It really reframed him in a way that I'd never thought about before. And it was as simple as me going and finding his ancestors and seeing where his dad grew up and lived, and the cemetery at the country church where his dad's buried, and literally just putting those little stars on Google Maps and looking at it and be like, this is all in the same place. And I mean, it was no more complicated than that at first.
Why did Jordan do this documentary?
That's a really good question. I have thought about that endlessly. Now, I never asked him because I hadn't talked to him since it came out. But I feel like, the producer came to pitch him on the morning of one of LeBron's championship parades.
Yeah.
And, I might have been born at night, but it wasn't last night. I feel like one of the most interesting things about it to me is that it exists, and that, it's important to Michael that after, you saw it was at the end of episode 7 when he started crying, thinking about how he treated people and all that this had cost. I mean, I felt like it's important to him that people remember because he sacrificed a lot for it. And it felt to me that it was, an attempt to remind people, hey, this is what it was like. This is who I was. Have you heard Tiger Woods talk about how his kids thought he was a YouTube golfer? Michael Jordan has 6-year-old twins, which I have a 2-year-old toddler, and I'm just getting crushed. I don't know how he's doing it. Although I bet he's got more staff than I've got. Still,
I'm going to get. But right, there was part of me that felt sorry for Jordan in that documentary because we can look at him and say this made him great. I don't think he can turn that off. I don't know. It was a weird feeling I had. And you spent time with him. Does that make any sense to you?
I have long felt like Michael Jordan is actively engaged in what to do with all of the traits that he so carefully nurtured in himself. And I think that he has thought about that since he retired. And I think that's what the Wizards was. I think that's what the Hall of Fame speech was. I think he is actively engaged in dealing with the idea and the cost of having been Michael Jordan.
We're talking to Wright Thompson, ESPN senior writer. He's got a book out on bourbon. Well, it's not just about bourbon. It's about family. It's about bourbon, Pappy Van Winkle, and the inheritance that matters the most. So he also has his most recent story, The History of Flight, tracing Michael Jordan's family relationship in rural North Carolina. You hung out with Tiger Woods. Like the similarities between Tiger and Michael. What is that common thread?
Well, a couple things. One, I've written about Tiger. I haven't spent a lot of time around Tiger, but the thing that's interesting to me is that, they were both Tiger was patterned after Michael, like his public life. And I think the thing that's so interesting that we forget is these aren't widgets just to be replaced. Like Michael Jordan is an extreme extrovert and Tiger Woods is an extreme introvert. And so there was a little bit of sort of lack of understanding of the person they were dealing with when they constructed his public persona. And so, I think the way that, Jordan handled his better than Tiger handled his because it fit him in a way that being in public didn't fit Tiger. Jordan is the alpha in the room, so Air Jordan isn't that different from him. And I feel like the public version of Tiger is very different than Tiger.
I also wondered about this with Jordan. Let's say Jordan went 4-2 in NBA Finals. We would be critiquing him by saying, you know what, if he spent more time dedicated and didn't go out, gambling and smoking cigars and playing golf, the fact that he went 6-0, that just adds to the mythology of Michael Jordan.
Well, it's like, what did Abraham Lincoln say about General Grant when somebody was saying, like, he's drinking too much, and Lincoln was like, I want to send all my generals a case of whatever he's drinking. Maybe Jordan had the right idea.
Speaking of drinking, can you talk about this book that you've written on Pappy Van Winkle?
We're still finishing it, so not a lot, except that it is, it's a story about the history of Pappy Van Winkle bourbon wrapped in with, I guess, my own story. It's a story about a man who makes whiskey and about a man who drinks it. And, I had all these grand literary ambitions because it's really genre bending and I'm really proud of that part of it. And then somebody read it and was like, oh, it's Eat, Pray, Love for Men. So it's sort of like, I was like, well, yeah, I guess it's that too. I did want to let you, do something cool for your huge and sprawling audience of listeners. So it's available for pre-sale now. It's called Pappyland. Anybody that goes out and can tweet out a screenshot that says you bought it, you pre-ordered it, and hashtag it Pappyland so I can find it, and then write a sentence or two about who you want to drink a bottle of this with and why, because ultimately what the book is about is the community of bourbon. And this thing comes out November 10th. And so just keep these things coming, and I'm going to look at all of them. And whichever one moves me the most personally, I'm going to send somebody a free bottle of Pappy. So, pre-order the book. write about who you'd want to share a bottle with and why. Tweet it, #Pappyland, and I'm going to send somebody a bottle, because that's what this stuff is really about. It's not about hoarding. It's about sharing, and it's about sharing it with someone who matters a lot to you. And the rarity and the price tag on the bourbon is a way in which you tell that person you're drinking with that you care about them and you love them. And to me, that's what it's really about.
And this audience responded the last book you had out when you came into the studio, right?
Dude, I walked in there like 37,000 on Amazon, and I walked out of there at number 11 or something.
Yeah.
Like believe me, like when Wallace goes to college, I'm going to be like, now thank Uncle Dan.
Because I told people, if you want the perfect gift, this is a beautiful gift that you can give to anybody. The stories that you had. And I said to you, look, our audience is going to gobble this up. And I think you were like, yeah, right. And this is where I'm going to co-sign on this again. If you want to get your father or grandfather a gift this Christmas, Pappyland will be that book. And it's not about bourbon, but it is. It's not about relationships, but it is. Like it's one of those where you're reading it and you think you're knee deep in bourbon, and then next thing you know, you're talking about visiting your father's gravesite. But it's all intertwined, and I think it'll be beautifully written because it's by you. But the audience, this November, look for Pappyland, but order it now, and then do the #Pappyland, and then let Wright see who you would share that Pappy with, and then he's going to pick out one and send somebody a bottle. I'm looking at the prices here. Pappy's not expensive, right? The secondary market on Pappy is really expensive. So these are crazy numbers. A 10-year bottle is $51. On the secondary market, $685. Here's a 13-year rye is $86. It's $2,000 on the secondary market. Oh, but wait, there's more. The Pappy 25-year-old is $13.50 for the bottle. It's $20,000 on the secondary market there.
Dude,
ouch!
20 grand, I could buy one of these center console fishing boats that just drove by. I mean, and by the way, talking about drinking a bottle with people I care about, when the book comes out on opening day, I'm going to come back. I'm going to fly up there. We're going to do this in person like it's supposed to be done. We're going to go deep on the whole thing. And
wait. What do you mean deep on the whole thing?
Yeah, we're going to sit there, deep on the bottle of whiskey.
Oh, the bottle, okay.
On your show.
Okay, so you're going to bring in a Pappy, and we'll drink it on the show while I do the interview.
Yeah. Yes.
What year are we drinking? I mean, I don't want to sound...
No. Oh, whoa.
No, I'm just saying, I just wanted to know,
15.
what? 15?
15. Pappy 15.
All right.
That's my favorite.
I had the 12 the other night. I sent you a picture of that.
I did. I liked that. The 12 is great. I'm gonna bring a bottle of Pappy 15.
Nice.
And,
nice.
And we're gonna get into. We might even give Todd some. I don't know.
Fritzy?
Maybe.
No, that's not a pretty picture. Hey, enjoy the beach. Once again, the book is Pappyland. Also, the article on ESPN, History of Flight, about Michael Jordan's family with the relationship with rural North Carolina. And look for Pappyland. Pre-order it. #Pappyland, and Wright will read what you say as far as who you would want to share that bottle of bourbon with. Great to talk to you, buddy. Hope you're healthy. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
That's Wright Thompson. If he writes it, I read it. That's how good I think he is.